This is Nelson George with another episode of Follow the Sound. I'm in front of 24 Bond Street in NoHo. Best known these days for the sculptures that adorn it. It's known as Dreams of Hyperion. It was made by a resident here. So I'm very famous down here in the city. But the history of this as an art center goes fairly far back. Robert De Niro's mother owned the building at one point. At another point in history, Robert Mapplethorpe, the famous and notorious photographer, actually had a studio up there on the 5th floor. Patti Smith was there when they were dating, and a lot of his great work was made here in 24 Bond Street. But my connection to Bond Street goes to really the late 70s, where I came here. It was called Studio Rivbea, here on the ground floor and in the basement. It was run by Sam Rivers and his wife Beatrice, and it was part of what they called loft jazz. The loft jazz wasn't necessarily a sound, but it was a location, it was an attitude. It was musicians owning their own spaces, bringing people in. You paid a nominal sum. I came here in '78 and paid $4. You'd go downstairs, you sit in these chairs, sometimes you sit on the floor, and you would hear all kinds of progressive music. Sam himself was a multi-instrumentalist. He could play sax, flute, all kinds of things. So you never know what you would see here. I came and saw David Murray with, of all people, the writer Stanley Crouch, who was in a group called Double Dark. And that was my introduction to Stanley and my introduction to, of course, David Murray, who's a fantastic player. So this is a really important site for the whole world that was called Loft Jazz down here. There were musicians. 2 Bond Street had a place called Ladies Fort. There was a spot called the Tin Palace that was over here on the Bowery. So this was an epicenter of the kind of jazz that wasn't being played at the Vanguard. It wasn't played more traditional spots. If you want to get a sampling, there's an album called Wildflowers. It's a 5 CD package when it came out. It has a wealth of music. Don't be afraid of it. It's not all avant-garde craziness. A lot of it is just very, very interesting blues-based music. I should also mention there's a theater here now that's been here for a long, long time. So if you're ever down here in NoHo, you can still go inside 24 Bond Street and get a little culture. This is Nelson George for Follow the Sound.